Hello and welcome to yet another edition of your weekly international current affairs program, Globe Watch from the Cameroon Radio Television with me, Charles Buni, from the Starland Hotel here in Yaoundé, Cameroon. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, the world counts roughly 220 countries and principalities and dependencies, bringing one word to the forefront: leaders, and that simply means leadership. Leadership from a managerial skill can mean those managing international organizations, homes, and other forms of structures worldwide. From a geopolitical standpoint, it seems we are in a world where there is simply one word: crisis. But how do we manage our world to the true leadership principles that bring all of us together? My guest today on Globe Watch is a leadership coach with plus 20 years of experience. He has been teaching leadership and coaching in plus 90 countries around the world. Ronald Kwemain, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on Globe Watch.
Charles, thanks for the invitation. Wonderful opportunity for me to come and share with you a crucial topic, which is part of my passion, my profession, my vocation, my mission, my vision: leadership.
Few weeks ago, we all watched the Ukrainian president at the White House with President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. We saw how they scored at each other. When you saw that image of leadership at the highest level, did it come to your mind that we have a leadership crisis, that those who are supposed not to behave that way, behave that way?
I think, Charles, you said it, I was shocked because I know they are human beings with their weaknesses, with their emotions. But you know, when we arrive at a certain level of responsibility, state responsibilities, there are certain things that we cannot do publicly. So I think the biggest frustration for me was that it was filmed. You know, behind the door, we can have those type of conversation, hard talks, but you know, with the camera, that's where I think personally I got a bit frustrated. And if that's the way the world is going, you are right to say we have serious leadership crisis worldwide.
You have been teaching and coaching leadership. What kind of model corresponded to what we saw at the White House that day?
I think I would say the world needs more non-violence. So it was quite violent. It was a lot of emotions, a lack of diplomacy, lack of elegance. But at the end of the day, maybe it was quite result-oriented. Is that the way? We can question it. But I think the ultimate goal also of leadership is impact, is result. We really hope that it can end the war, because we are at the edge of a third world war. You know, 25 years ago, when the East, you know, came down, URSS,
the
Berlin Wall, Soviet Union, the Western world celebrated very early. But you have a group of strategists that said, no, they have to be very careful, that the world that was coming was going to be VUCA. I mean, volatile. The future was quite uncertain. The geopolitics was going to be very complex, and that information was going to be also be with a lot of ambiguity thanks to internet coming. Now, when we look at it critically, 25 years after, we can say those guys were prophets, because the current world is VUCA, and in the sub-African region, I've even put another
Which
view.
means that people like Francis Fukuyama, the end of history, and what they were probably wrong in their analysis.
Yes, they were a bit wrong. But again, I think humanity is at a crossroad. And I'm happy because our conversation today is to focus and analyze and see what is the way forward. And leadership is really the solution. But which type of leadership? That's the main question. Are we going to continue the way we have been doing things? I have doubt, because the way the world has evolved. You have now the geopolitics, the dynamics of, you can't talk about the West and the East. You have the BRICS coming, China powerful, Brazil, Turkey, and you will see China today is nowhere. China is where its interest is. So Africa also is at a crossroad. And I'm happy the last General Assembly, when there was a conversation on Ukraine, you saw many African countries, they did not vote, and some even vote for Russia. This was in the first time in the history of humanity where African countries go in the General Assembly of
United Nations and
really
necessarily not supporting their traditional patterns. You said a while ago that what kind of leadership should we have? When you look at things today, people seem to be okay with a kind of transactional leadership, that business-oriented leadership, like President Trump, like Boris Johnson, like the Prime Minister of Hungary. But others say that we should have a kind of transformative leadership, a kind of classical administration that respects what they may call public etiquette. You who has been a leadership coach, can you unpack that for our audience to understand? What is best for our communities?
Thank you, Charles. In this school of thought, you have three types. Let me, for the purpose of educating our viewers, you have the transactional. That is very result-oriented. It has one weakness. It's very short-term. You have the situational.
Ephemeral.
Yes, ephemeral. You have the situational leadership that will advise the leaders and the stakeholders to adapt in the situation. It is good, but it has one weakness. In an environment where there is a challenge of values, situational become very dangerous because you might follow the trend and adapt negatively. Now you have the transformational. That is the school of thought for the past 15 years that go ahead and personally I promote. The transformational is hybrid. It's between the transactional and the situational. But it has one thing so powerful, because here the leader will come out with a strong vision. Number two, he will be very inspirational. He has a lot of strength in terms of motivating the team, but he has positive influence. And last but not the least, he serves. It's more a servanthood leadership, not selfish, not ego.
Not a self to leader.
No, not a self. You don't say you are not leader for yourself. You are a leader because you want to serve the people. Mandela is more a transformational. He is remembered for first the resilience, but second, the forgiveness. You will take Luther King. Dr. King was also a transformational, a dreamer, a big dreamer. But at that time, and I think even today, sometimes we need to dream, because everything starts with a dream. If you take other leaders,
Mother Teresa, Pope John Paul II.
Pope John Paul II was also a transformational, very charismatic leader, very close to the people, proximity, not part of vulgarity, but very close to
Muhammad Gandhi.
Gandhi also, very inspirational, non-violent. So those are role models that history can copy and learn from them. But now, the world for me need more transformational leaders.
When you move around the plus 100 countries you have visited and roughly 90 where you have done training,
yes,
what kind of tips do you provide to business owners, to non-governmental organization heads, to civil society leaders? What kind of leadership skills do you provide for them?
I think we have practical formulas. First, leadership has nothing to do with titles. Let me prove you something, Charles. In 2010, as JCI president, I did 71 countries. And during those trips, I asked for one gift. One. I had many gifts, but there was one that I was intentional. I asked for a book on someone that had a huge impact in the history of the country that I visited. I received 54 books, 54. And out of 54 books, Just 2 were books on head of state, on presidents. This is strange. If I take the case of Jamaica, I had 2 books. One on Bob Marley, but the guy who was the founder of Pan-Africanism, Steve Garvey. So you see, you are surprised by the type of books in India, Gandhi and Mother Teresa. Gandhi was never prime minister, so it's quite strange to see that leadership has nothing to do with title and function. If we agree on that, then now my conversation with leaders is to tell them, please, first, what is your vision? You know, in this process, questions are more important than answers. So what is your vision in this position? What is your promised land? Where do you want to take your organization? You need to answer. Number 2 is integrity. Integrity. If you say what you do and you do what you say, the followers will buy in your vision. It becomes a share and common vision. Then you have won. And the last is action. Action speaks louder than words. So the VIA model is a model that I keep promoting, and leaders that have a clear vision where they want to go. If there's no integrity, you will see that there will be issues in that organization. Leaders that are maybe high integrity, but there's no promised land, people don't know where we are going, there will be confusion.
Practice what you say,
yes,
and practice what you do.
You do. So those are the tips. It's very practical. But
so that there should be no irony or contradiction between your words and actions.
And your action. Because
does that explain why religious movements stay for long? Because when Jesus says that as a servant of God, I prefer that you shouldn't be married because you have more time for God and whatsoever, because he himself was not married.
Yes.
But it doesn't say that you should never be married at all.
He didn't say it.
And it's just an advice.
You open a door to Christ. Jesus Christ, for me, is an amazing model. I have read a lot on him, but I brought it in the leadership and management. Even during my training courses, it's really a model now. You see the 3H of Christ. This is a guy who says he's God, if you read the Bible, but who came as a human and came for human being. He put human at the center of his preaching, of his philosophy, and even of his action. H, human. The second H is honesty. You have said it. His yes was yes, his no was no. He stood for truth. He will not be afraid of authorities, and he will not take a position that is not his own. He will not take what doesn't belong to him. He was honest. And the last H is humility. This is a guy, nobody lives God, but you saw what he did, cleaning the feet of his disciples, and even saying to his guys, those of you who want to be first, please, you should serve. And he's in a mission statement, very powerful. I came to serve.
There is a word associated with leadership,
yes.
Experience.
Yes.
What is the place of experience in leadership and modeling?
Experience is so powerful. For me, experience, if someone comes to me and tells me, even in an interview, that he has never failed, I'm afraid. Because experience is the association of our failures. It means you have experience. Experience, it means you have done things.
You have tested.
You have tested. It didn't work. You change. You did. So
you modify.
You modify. It means you have a track record. You are legitimate. You're not legal. It means you have a story that you can tell.
A legitimate
account
to give.
So it's important to respect experience. But experience is not enough in today's world. You need the association of experience and innovation. So for me, experience is like age, is like wisdom, but you need also smartness, craziness. The association of the two in the current world will bring organization very far. Experience, very important, but not enough. Innovation, creativity, artificial intelligence, data. So it's the association of the two that will make organization to be propelled.
You have published, to keep your ideas alive, The Impact of One, the ability of each person to make a positive change in society, Impactitude Spirit. with a preface by Andre Siaka, the former boss of the Cameroon Employers Association. What are the key messages when it comes to leadership, life coaching, that you have decided to enshrine, to archive in your publications?
When you take the impact of one, I wanted to say from Mutengene, a child of Mutengene, living in Boya, I became the first black world president of one of the biggest youth organizations in the world. From Cameroon, I studied in Cameroon. I became president. And believe me, I did my best as JCI president. So I wanted to document it, that it is possible. What is quite important is to always dream. If you dream, but you work hard to make sure that you accomplish your dream. Now there are possibilities, there's destiny, you know, but destiny should meet you when you are ready. I had the opportunity and I was ready to serve the organization.
You are an exported Cameroonian human resource.
Yes. So I want to be proud of my educational system. I went to from primary school to the university in Cameroon. I wanted to be very clear. Later on, I've done my master's and doing my GBA in the Western world, but all the foundation and the credit should go to my country, Cameroon. Now the second book was more, the first one was inspirational, but the second one was more a practical conversation on a day-to-day leadership, what we call soft skills. Now, if you take impactitude, I stand more for integrity. I keep coming back on the values.
Yeah.
There's no leadership without integrity.
Okay.
The P is the passion. You must be passionate. You know, Charles, when you present your program, the kids, they want to be like Charles. You know, I have my driver, I bought our first son, William, from the age from 4 to 6, wanted to be a driver. When I asked him, William, what do you want to be tomorrow? Daddy, I want to be a driver. I remember my wife being worried. I said, just don't mind. He had a role model, the driver, because everybody is such a good driver. So passion. You have the A. A here is action-oriented. There is no leadership. The women and men that humanity is celebrating because they were action-driven leaders. So you have the C. The C is for communication. The crisis, and you saw, we started the program with a crisis situation. Communication is key. I'm speaking to an expert like you. Communication. 80% of our communication is non-verbal. So leaders should go and learn how to communicate. Because communication is like a knife. You know, it can cut tomato, slice it, but it can also kill. You have the T here for the element of time management, because we are not eternal. Time is flying. Time is ephemeral. It's ephemeral. So we need to be present when we are present.
Comme on dit en français, la loi de la finitude. Tout finit par finir.
Par finir. So the time is A. Then you have the other A that comes here for ambition. It's not bad for a leader to be ambitious. I respect those who have ambition, but not selfish ambition. Ambition for the organization. Then impact. They have the others say about the complexity. Don't take. We had a conversation about our country. We have 4 cultural areas. Mm-hmm. When you lead an organization today, you have to be very careful, even in the appointment, even in the way you will do it. So the complexity, you need to be very open in terms of geopolitics, and following a program like yours, you will be open-minded.
To understand the environment in which you know.
Yeah. Because
the context is very important.
The stakeholders, the movement, the trend. So you need to be very sharp. And then you come back to the T. The second T here is more about the temptation, because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you need to be prepared. How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage finances? How do you manage power? Because today, if I have the power, how do I talk to Charles? Do I stop respecting Charles? How do I talk to the team? Do I respect them when I came in? Do I greet them? Or I don't care about them? Because power, we need to be prepared. If not, the temptation is horrible.
Arrogance is terrible.
Arrogance is for me, is one of the weaknesses of more and more in our current society. Okay. People are not humble. Okay. So I try to put all that, and I finish with experience, and pursuit of the E. The last one is experience. It's good to do your class. You just can't come here, pop, and editor-in-chief. It's very dangerous. You start here, journalist, you go. It's the same with army. I think in the society, we need to follow the ladder, the seasons. And experience for me is something that we should respect. Although experience alone, I said in the beginning of our program, is not enough. We need experience and innovation.
You have created so many organizations where you do seminars, teachings to imbibe knowledge on people, and one of them is Go Ahead Africa.
Yes.
How many people have you impacted over this time that you have been training?
Thank
and in
you.
watch formats?
Wonderful opportunity to do like our Bilan. The organization is 15 years. We created Go Ahead 15 years. On May 22nd, we are celebrating our 15 years. We have trained, in our data, more than 50,000 managers, 50,000 worldwide. We have trained more than 50,000. Now, 2 years after creating Go Ahead, we started our foundation. Because for me, CSR is quite crucial. When you have been blessed.
CSR meaning?
Corporate social responsibility.
Okay.
When you are blessed, you must be a blessing to others. It means paying back to the community.
You reason like Tony Elumelu in Nigeria?
We have been doing that. Yes, Tony, we have been doing that. We created our foundation, what I call the Pan-African Leadership and Entrepreneurship Foundation, in 2012. And every year, I have 100 young people that spend 1 week with me, lodge, dress, and train for free. It's our own way. And then we have also Nyango Impact, which is a women empowerment initiative. So we have been, beside Go Ahead Africa, which is a corporate world, we have been supporting the community. Today we have Leadership Academy in 10 African countries, totally free of charge, because I strongly believe that God has blessed me to go through what I went through. So it's my responsibility, it's my duty to pay back. And I'm asking
Do you have feedback on some of them, what they have become, what they are doing in their communities?
Today, I'm impressed by what they are doing. Most of them are more in social entrepreneurship. Some are in the corporate world. But again, I'm so proud of what we are doing. During these 15 years, we are going to celebrate them. I might come back to the program so that we really explain.
Our doors are open.
Thank you, Charles.
Our doors are
so
open.
that they even have a testimony. So if we take the youth, only the youth, all over Africa, there are already like 10,000 young people in Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Cameroon, Nigeria. So we have an academy, and it's important for Africans to know that it's our responsibility to build the next generation. We should stop accusing. I wrote in my book, The ABC Syndrome. Stop accusing others why you are not performing, why you are not achieving your goal. Stop blaming others why things are not working, and stop complaining. If you kill the A, B, C syndrome in the way, your philosophy of life, you will see that despite the challenges, the show must go on.
What are your best leadership quotes?
Okay. Before I have a strong role model who is my mother. I don't know, she did not go to school, but very intelligent, very smart. The one quote that I keep writing every day, she told us, she had 10 kids, that among all the virtues, the mother of all the virtues is gratitude. La mère de toutes les vertus, la gratitude. So I copy it and I keep. Then there's the Yoruba saying, I always go for African proverbs. It is difficult for people to give you their hand if they don't see your heart. So as leaders, we should lead ourselves with our head, but if we want to lead people, we should lead with the heart.
Finally, if you look at the geopolitics of the world today, whether you take it from the Palestinian-Israeli crisis, whether you take it from the crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo, these are countries you have been to, whether you take it from the side of Russia, Ukraine, whether you see it from the lens of Putin, of Zelensky, of Macron, of Tshisekedi, or the Kagame, what kind of advice will you give to the frontline leaders of today to keep us safe from what happened in 1914 and 1939?
the Second World War.
The First World War and the Second World War.
Thank you very much, Charles. I think the first recommendation, I will tell them, let us discuss and let us identify what unites us.
Dialogue.
Dialogue.
And
it will be
inclusion.
dialogue and inclusion. There is no problem without a solution. There is no problem without a solution. Now, where the challenges are is our ego and also the mindset. If, Charles, I look at you and I hate you, I will never see the goodness in you. But if I look at you and I try to be positive, there are many things. We need leaders that will come and more mediation, dialogue, we identify some common ground, because there will be frustrations, there will be misunderstanding, but communication is key. And when I talk about communication, the first element of communication, listening. You know, when you ask me in my profession, coaching, when you ask me a question, I don't answer immediately. I listen to understand. I don't listen to answer. If I listen to answer, I'm biased. So that's why the Almighty gave us one mouth and two ears. It's more difficult, Charles, to listen than to speak. So I'll advise the world leaders to start listening. And if we listen to ourselves, to even spend a day without talking, they put them in a room, don't talk, just sit quiet. The spiritual aspect of leadership should come strongly. And I believe that God created us at His image. You know, there are possibilities for the world to go to the right direction. But if leaders put what I call the roles, and I want to conclude, if you permit me, with the 5 fingers of our hands. The first role of the leader is to show the right direction, vision. The second one, management. And the created access of all organizations, human resources. If we know how to manage the human resources, we will have solved 80% of the crisis in the world. The third one is we should educate our population. Fourth, we should be coaches. We need to empower more leaders. Leaders that are great do not celebrate followers. They build other leaders. And last but not the least, we should be ambassadors of peace worldwide. Ambassador of our organization, of our countries, of humanity. If we use it, so visionary, management, educator, coaches, and ambassadorship, then the world will be a better place to live.
And with that, we conclude the interview. Life coach and leadership coach, Ronald Kwemain, thank you very much indeed for being guest on our program.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much for coming right away from Douala this morning.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome.